Hey guys, it's your boy Zach. Just kidding. It's Ben Rodriguez, aka Bar One Scorpio. B as in boy, A R the number one Scorpio, SCORPIO, and this is Bar One's Haunt Scrapbook. I was over at it was December 10th, and I was over at Motor City Nightmares Dark Christmas Art Show at the regular hotel for that convention, and I decided to pick up an item. I saw an old buddy of mine from Mike Woolley. He's an artist, and he works a comic book shop local to me. So I decided to pick up this, A Fistful of Dead Folk, written by Peggy Christie and David C. Haynes. You got two writers here, and a flurry of artists, including Mike. And I thought I'd do a review of it right here and quick, because honestly, this was one of those efforts, and the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers, I've got another one of their anthologies, a couple more anthologies, and I think they really do feel like one of those things that almost inspires me to. Their writing gets on my nerves so much that it actually caused me to write in the margins. And you're going to see, this is a review of A Fistful of Dead Folk. You can see it's an illustrated novelette of about 50 pages, about 40 pages worth of actual story, with a variety of artists, featuring additional art by Joshua Warner, Brian Coate, Jason Jimenez, Josh Sobek, and Brad Geisha. Most people never really seen their work, but you can see this is one of Joshua Warner's pieces. It's a really pretty. This is actually a pretty good piece. You've got this undead gunslinger. There's a devil with 3 slugs in the back. The only problem is, this doesn't have anything to do with what's in the book. This has nothing to do with the story. There's no point where something like this actually happens, where there's a demon getting shot in the back by an undead gunslinger, which would actually be pretty cool, which is very unfortunate. You're gonna get it. This is actually a really frustrating book. Loud pop sent hot embers into the air. You know what? Actually, let me change up the music to the next bit. If I'm going to read some, to give you an idea of this writing. A loud pop sent hot embers into the air as a thick log settled atop a pile of burning scrub. The campfire burned away the chill air that came with the approaching night. A small band of outlaws gathered close to the flames. They absently scratched at scraggly beards or picked their noses as Clem, a lock of wavy gray hair falling into his eyes, glanced over his shoulder. And I'm not exactly sure why you have. There's a very odd things that keep on popping up in here, like the glance over his shoulder. The way they mentioned that like where gray hair is, it doesn't really seem like very bookish. What you have is you're introduced. The story begins with these outlaws. One of them is dying, is sick. Leroy's getting him for the big jump. What do you mean? Clem asked. Just what I said, Clem. He was that Injun we robbed. Goddamn Red cursed us all on account of Leroy having his way with the Red's daughter. Tom's eye widened. You think? I know. Indians' curses will fuck anything up. You just wait. We got payment coming fast. And a gang called the Rough Riders. These guys die. First Leroy dies, then he reanimates. And so you have this of the guy shooting them, and he bites, vomits on them, and then carries on the curse to them, and they die and reanimated later. The second piece of artwork here, and you're already seeing some really... I'm going to bring this in. And now it's going out of focus a bit, but look at the size proportions of the hands to the head here. This guy's anatomy is all over the place, and his legs are way too stiff. This guy's legs are way too short. About the only decent bit of anatomy is these hands right here holding onto the gun. The best part of the drawing here, this illustration, I can say, is like this tree in the background. This is kind of some ridiculously bad stuff. These cowboys die, they reanimate, and here's just a very generic. This is well drawn, but it's once again very generic, and it has nothing to do with the story. That's first, scene going into the morning shone down on a crowd of Devil's Gulch citizens as they gathered around the local saloon. Standing beside a large push cart, a salesman hawked a supply of Dr. Otto's cure-all. The glass bottles filled with tea-colored liquid rattled when the salesman grabbed one and held it up. "And this, my friends, is Dr. Otto's guaranteed cure-all." The closest onlookers widened their eyes in amazement. "That's right, good citizen. Tuberculosis, headaches, swamp foot. This tonic is guaranteed to cure whatever ails you." And he gets heckled. And here's the first thing. This is when I really just started. The story here, okay, we've got zombies. And that's generic enough, but you can do some pretty good stuff with that. You've got Western, generic, it's well-tread ground. But, here's a new twist, maybe. And then there's little warning signs early on, and I circled the word bastard. Because, that's right out, folks. Dr. Otto's tonic is so good, even that ugly little bastard could find a woman after taking it. And here's my thing is, and this is the note I wrote down, rough town or not, language in the 1800s was a very serious thing. You'd not exactly be just calling somebody a bastard out in the street in public like that. I mean, if nothing else, you might just get in a fist fight over such words. But then we cut inside the local saloon, and this is when it really starts to hit its non-stride. The grizzled bartender chuckled as he dried a freshly washed glass. Yeah, the old bartender is always introduced washing, glasses, cliche. You actually invoke that in this book. And if you only got like 40 pages in this kind of large double-spaced, tight, man. So this is like a novelette, and yet And this is another annoying thing. You have the bartender. The mayor nursed his drink, raising an eyebrow in derision. The preacher, his broadcloth suit, a bit rumpled for wear, and a mortician, his Kentucky bow tie hanging limply from his collar, bent over a chessboard. The preacher grumbled at the gunslinger. "Do you mind?" And this is going to be annoying very soon, coming up. The young man turned from the window and smiled. "Do I mind? In case you've forgotten, preacher man, you're sitting in a saloon. I got half a mind to shut you up for..." "That's right. You do have half a mind." Here's the thing. Let's count this out. Inside this saloon, a grizzled bartender, mayor, preacher, mortician, and a gunslinger. Already you're at 5 people. You have a line of dialogue. No indication who said this. That's right. You do have half a mind who said this. The gunslinger stopped short before running into the resident madam. Okay. Madam. That's right, you do have... I guess I should have read that in a more feminine voice or some shit. Her chartreuse ruffled skirt hung below her knees, and the black bodice cinched so tightly at her waist that it remained motionless as her body swayed with each step. Who the hell do you think you are? Blah, blah. And here's a piece by Mike and England. What is he? It's Donald England and Mike Woolley doing the pencils and inks here, and I'm guessing this is the preacher here. So it actually has something to do, but it's still very generic. Some of these pieces, though, I mean, some of the actual artwork would make decent prints that you'd like if you just had a print book. That would work, but now everybody just starts trading insults. The prostitute and the gunslinger, the bartender and stuff. I don't need this bullshit. Is everyone in this town an asshole? Is everyone in this town an asshole? Is what I wrote at this point. I also wrote no stakes yet. And I don't mean that we know that there's zombies, right? So we've got zombies coming into town, but we don't have. None of these people have anything that these zombies are going to inconvenience other than their raw lives. Misha Burnett was pretty good on this when he was talking about it in a recent thing where the great pulps and stuff had something morally at stake with the or some life goal, some goal outside of mere survival in a horror situation. That's what makes for great horror, that something is genuinely something else, something outside this person's survival will be left undone if this person dies. It's not just, I want to live. You want to live for something. Nobody really seems to be doing this right now. The madam, the preacher and the madam get into it. From the back of the bar, the mayor harumphs. The first, a man of God doesn't talk to common horrors. That's the mayor. The madam turned on him, her eyes squinting in anger. This town could do without you, strumpet. This town could also do without a corrupt mayor, Your Honor. Fucking too on the nose. And this is what I wrote, It's like, this town could also do without a corrupt mayor, Your Honor. Too on the nose. Too just goddamn right in front of you. Touche, I understand that your lack of business has made you a little angry. I forgive you. Oh, for fuck's sakes. And here's another bizarre thing. So, the madam took a step toward him, but the bartender spoke. Cassandra. 1.5 pages. We've had five male characters, 1 female character. We finally named 1 character. Think about that. 5 characters that are being listed by 5 male characters that are still just being listed by job description or archetype or really cliched archetypes, and a female who is first just the madam and is now just called Cassandra. And here's the thing I don't really get. There's 2 writers on here, and neither one of them knows what a madam is or what a madam does. Because here's my note here. Who spends this much time insulting a procurer? As a madam, this is likely her establishment. She's the only woman working in the bar, so she's either not a madam, she's either a common prostitute, a doxy, a soiled dove, what have you, or she's a madam, which means that she likely owns this saloon that everybody's just standing in the middle of the day or in the middle of the morning drinking. Or this is a madam. She's gone over to the saloon for some reason, on business. Stopped by there, maybe to wet her whistle on the way to the post office or something, and she's got a brothel somewhere else in town, which means that there's like a whole building in there's like a whole it's like a whole building of prostitutes, hot women, but probably about to get torn up by zombies. Could we actually center on that, or even there's an interesting story of like a denizen in one of these a cat house that has to board itself up or whatever, and the Johns inside and ladies of the evening. But instead, we have this bizarre thing of middle of the morning. This woman's being referred to as madam. They're insulting her by calling her a whore, even though that means that she can just cut off the fucking tap. Literally, the fucking tap. She could literally cut off their ability to access, because she's a procurer. She's not just one of the workers. She's the owner-operator of the business establishment. And also, this, if she's a madam and this is her, or if the rest of the girls are just workers in the saloon, then this is her establishment. Who the hell are you to insult the boss of a place? Like, would you fucking come in, and not even the manager, but the owner of a restaurant or something, and expect to be ever seated there again? I mean, the bartender, he's not listed as a saloon owner. He's listed as the bartender. He's a subservient role already. He's a service role. So they really didn't think it through when they refer to this character, Cassandra, as a madam. She might be a worker girl, soiled dove, or whatever. She might be working above the saloon or below, or in another building. They sure as hell didn't exactly know what the hell a madam is. The preacher going off with her, everybody going off on her, and then a girl comes running to town. There's a commotion as this girl comes running to town screaming. When Cassandra, Reggie, and the preacher. When Cassandra, Reggie, Reginald is Dr. Otto. So you've got two named characters. The quack salesman, well, he already had kind of that he was Dr. Otto, but he's never referred to as. They keep on calling him Reginald or Reggie. They could have kept Dr. Otto. The preacher and mortician rushed outside. The girl had already collapsed into the arms of John Hopkins. John Hopkins. Okay. I'm supposing another town character is named Howard Johnson. Well, I guess if the girl's in need of a medical emergency, no better place to stop but John Hopkins, the owner of the general store. It's Margie Nelson. Her family lives just outside of town. Fucking yeah, and this is where it was at this point that I noticed that it was like when you name a character same name as a medical school, hospital, John Hopkins University. Got 8 characters now. Only 3 of them named, or 9, including the just introduced and named Margie Nelson. And people crowd around the girl, think she's maybe crazy, blah blah blah. She falls into the Cassandra's arms. Margie's parents and other dusty fingers lumbered down the street. John pointed at the approaching group. There's proof. That's Ben Nelson and his wife. They ain't dead. John waved his hand as he walked towards Margie's family. Ben, it's me, John. John extended his hand, but pulled up short when he was only a few feet away. Ben, you don't look so good. And my note is, when I did my initial read-through, I actually groaned here. This sequence. Margie's father descended upon John and sunk his teeth deep into the man's neck, tearing out a large portion. John tried to scream, but only gurgle of blood sprayed from his missing trachea. This whole section of the person, that's a living person. Oh, walk right in and get bitten. It's so fucking cliche. It's so by the numbers. It is so children's connect the dots. It is so color within the lines. Chaos erupts in the town. Blah blah blah. Our introduced characters without names start rushing back into the saloon. Amidst the chaos, the bartender attempted to help Cassandra and Margie into the saloon. He was slammed from behind and knocked out to the ground. Someone stepped on his arm, snapping it, and he cried out. This is no, and my note here is no passion. No passion. Someone stepped on his arm, snapping it, and he cried out. There's you could even keep some of the same words here, but I honestly think okay, so he's knocked to the ground. He cried out as someone stepped on his arm, snapping it or something. There's or a bit more flourish in the words. Here's my note. Horror is one of the few genres that benefits from purple prose. Every writing teacher lies to you when they tell you to cut out the purple prose and stuff. Because honestly, the more poetical language or the more descriptive, the more florid, the more the fear, and like I say here, the fear of and pain and violence and death boil when described in lurid detail. And yeah, that's I'm just saying. It's you want colorful ways to describe things, not exactly medicinal ways. You want to have, you want to really get creative with the descriptions and the sensations of not just the actions, but the sensations of them, and that's really missing in a lot of these sections. Then just a bit that just comes out strange. I can't even understand this. They're getting attacked by zombies. Margie's bartender gets bitten before she could bite him again. She stumbled to the right, revealing the preacher, his Bible covered in dark fluid. Okay, well, never good. This is a camera movement. This is my note. I didn't understand why the word revealing. That is not a good word to use. It's just clunky in the paragraph, in the sentence. And I couldn't understand it until I got to the end of the book. And you'll notice other telling problems. The four of them made a dash for the saloon door, moving faster than expected. Margie's mother... For who? For who? Who expects zombies to move slow? Who expects zombies to move fast? This is a first time dance for all these characters, correct? That's part of the problem is there's no frame of reference. There's very little frame of reference for what kind of zombies they are and what kind of and also just looks to be the standard slow shambling or whatever. But hey, these characters have never seen a zombie before, let alone have been on a zombie attack. So they don't know, and they've never seen a zombie movie. They don't know how slow to expect a zombie to move. They ran into the saloon and slammed the door. She rammed into it, smearing bits of flesh and clotted the blood over the wooden surface. Here's my problem with the saloon door. Almost everyone in reading a regular sentence about a saloon door they're going to pictures bat wings. Oh, they ran into the saloon, and the doors did this number. Those little saloon doors. That you're not gonna slam the saloon door and then have all of a sudden the zombies stopped by the saloon, by the doors. It's not how that works. That's you might have wanted to, because people you're already using the visual cheats of the Western genre of films for characters and whatnot. People are already kind of making assumptions about the locale and the set design. Shall we say it? We don't really. Nobody pictures a slammable door really at a saloon. Oddly enough, that was a degree of difficulty. I mean, you could have had that batwing doors and thing, and then all of a sudden, well, wait. Also, saloons typically have a piano, right? So you instead shove the piano in front of the entryway or something, and then bat it down or whatever. Now, here we go. Here's another piece by England and Mike. It's really cool. You got this undead hand and a cocksure gunfighter. Having blown, I'm guessing, emptied the gun and blown it away. But there's only one problem, and guess what? I'm gonna let you guess what the hell the problem is. What I'm seeing is the mistake here, and really says this was a rush job. Do 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 do. Just go get a ballpoint pen for this one. It's gonna be the red pen. Cowboys. Western era, cowboy era. Not a lot of talk of cars. There's gonna be horses coming about, so we're kind of in the era of the gunslinger, that cinematic movie Gunslinger, that Hopalong Cassidy style, and that's a 6-shooter. You're going to see, this is what you're gonna have, right? It's completely different. This right here, that's the trigger for, a automatic or something. I mean, hell, somebody even draws it a bit more right over here. It's completely different. Yeah, you're going to see that wheel in some way. Something of the wheel, depending on the revolver. And there's a lot of different revolvers. You can see a clip art of the revolvers and stuff. So yeah, they didn't have anything. They weren't eyeballing reference when they drew that gun in at all. It's kind of sad, because I know Mike's always been a competent artist. I don't know. I don't know Don England from Adam, though, so I'd have to look at some of his other stuff. I think he does some of the Asylum stuff. I think he does these soda bottles. Then we get another bizarre and yet telling for later mistake. Dozens of people laid in the street, gutted and partially eaten. Several citizens have tried to destroy the walking corpse. Have tried. And this is where two authors, David C. Hayes, Peggy Christie, David C. Two people working on this, and neither one of them at any point caught this, and there was apparently there was no editor. Apparently, that's the only thing. They went to print with this. They collected artwork for it, went to print. 2 pages later, we get the same problem. The men froze in place, letting out an exasperated breath. Cassandra ran to the door. She grabbed a heavy bottle off the bar and smashed it across the table, creating a makeshift weapon, breaking glass on the. Anybody who's ever tried this actually knows how hard glass bottle is to break, and how you don't get an effective weapon out of it. They're relying on movie cliches and TV cliches way too much. And it's kind of funny, because this is when you make the jump from movie cinema to we make the movies, cinema, blah blah blah. We make that jump to reading because different parts of the brain are engaging. There's more internalization in horror. This is why I like horror writing over horror cinema or horror cinema over horror comics. But different parts of the brain are flaring up and going into use. And in writing, there's more of an internalization because you're using your imagination to construct these scenes. But the part of the problem is there's also things that will suddenly not jibe because you're not seeing it happen, and you kind of know. And of course, the more people read, the more people know about these things. The less these cliches work. Before she could grab the door, the mortician blocked away. Are you sure? They're getting closer, Reggie screamed from the outside. Reggie makes it inside, but he's been bitten. Once again, frickin' cliche. Were you bitten? The mortician asked him. Without hesitation, Reggie smiled and held up his glass. Nope, I must have rammed it into a nail or something out there. It's just... Well, this is a cool illustration, though. Like a zombified cowboy kind of dude. The line hatching is really nice. I'd buy a print of this. Or if it was just a book of artwork like this. Just straight up illustration art book. That'd be worth $10. Or even, or 20 if they were in color or something like that. On a different paper than this paper. But I can't say get this for freaking. Then somebody rides into town. There's some more killing outside. A woman got killed in the window across the street. They could see her. Zombie make their way inside the door, and then a post writer, I guess Pony Express or whatever, and he gets killed, torn apart by the mob, and so does his horse. The horse, it squealed in surprise. So, fucking. I was putting, squealed. Horses squeal. No, horses whinny, kick, nicker, neighed. You squeal. You don't really think from horses. But it squealed in surprised. As the mob grabbed its reins and pulled it to the dusty ground. As they ripped into its abdomen, the animal loosed a deep guttural scream of agony. Bits of hair, skin, and bones showered the road. As the corpses tore the horse to pieces, slurping and gnawing on the flesh. Once finished, they stood as one and swiveled back at the saloon. Margie and the mortician gasped as they crowd advanced. Margie and the mortician grasped as they crowd. And there are also zombies are like trying to get into the windows and everything. And I'm just thinking about the windows, the glass quality in the 1800s was nowhere near. And all this time, these characters are just watching stuff happen before they board up, do the traditional, hammering slats across, with nails and stuff. They're just kind of watching through the regular windows. Zombie, you'd figure the undead could break their way in there by then. Really? Another really cool Donald Englund and Michael Woolley illustration. But really, all that happened with this guy, all this happened with this post writer was he rides into town and gets killed. The mayor's just getting drunk and saying, "Oh, we'll wait for the sheriff or to come back right into town." Any ideas? Once again, with nobody. Who the hell said any ideas? Cassandra stared at the assembled group and shrugged. Margie shook her head. Margie shakes. All right, wrong tense again. Why? I believe I have rank. Hey, we don't know who the fucking city you. The madam rolled her eyes as the mayor stumbled out of the dark, the half-empty bottle of whiskey dangling from his grip. Well, I'm the acting official in this town. Blah, blah, blah. Trading barbs again for no real reason. And so the mayor's just a drunk. Here's my goddamn problem is you're not only indicating, who's saying these, a line that's interrupting question or whatever. This is also something you didn't have to say said. You could have said, I believe I have rank, slurred the mayor. And then, the madam, Cassandra. You don't even need to call her the madam at this point. Cassandra rolled her eyes, right? Act is right, she played. Cassandra released Margie and stepped in between the men. Preacher, Mr. Mortimer, let's hear what he has to say. She turned to the... And... Yeah, Mr. Mortimer, the mortician. Mortimer, Mr. Mortimer. And here's another thing. It's like, Mortimer sighed and bent down. Now, sir, and this is why I don't know. Is it like Mr. Mortimer or is it Mortimer? Is it a given name or is it a surname? For the mortician. You're calling the mortician Mr. Mort the mortician. Fuck me, that's bad. That's too on the nose. That's too cutesy. And yet another good illustration. Like I'm saying. This is cool. Teeth and grabbing some guts, holding them to the zombie. The sheriff rides into town now and gets attacked by the undead and managed to get off. He managed to get off a shot and fell a zombie with a headshot because, of course, these zombies, it's not radiation, it's not just random, it's Native American curse supposedly or whatever from the beginning, right? Or whatnot. And we don't have you didn't have to do these rules. You didn't have to do the headshot kills them for good rule. But they did. They went with that, The sheriff fired with reckless abandon. Bullets tore into the corpse's chest, necks, and limbs. None of them are hit. Once again, none of them are hit. Wrong tense. None of them are hit. None of them were hit in the head, and they continued to advance. Past tense. Present. They figure out that you gotta shoot the zombies in the head, though, from this. Here's the fucking thing. You've had 2 instances of people riding into town and getting eaten up. Nothing. And basically, these were all just... There were 2 deaths that need to happen, and I'm not saying, oh my gosh, you're increased the body count too much. No, I'm saying these were distracting. The sheriff one, where, you learn that if you shoot them in the head, they'll go down for good. You could have had that in an earlier sequence with the gunslinger when they're boarding up the windows and trying to push the zombies out of the glass on the windows. You could have had these characters learn this earlier on their own without interrupting and distracting and taking the camera, shall we say this, off of them. And you didn't. So I mean, these the sheriff character, who's the mayor's brother, and the freaking post writer uh, are completely pointless additions to the story. Their characters went nowhere. Um, the sheriff's death is just pretty much an exact repeat of the freaking post writer's death. You know, zombies swarm them, they get gobbled up. Nothing much to. And this is that was the note. They get an idea to swing a rope over to the post office and use the telegraph, right? They're going to use the telegraph to wire for help. You know, that would mean in this day's travel, there would be hours, if not days away. And it's he stared over to the post office next door, then back down to the gathered creatures. The kid shook his head, then retreated back into the apartment. How does it look? Cassandra asked. I don't know. I can make it, but you? Why? Because I'm a woman? Well, fuck yeah. I mean, you are a woman. You're gonna be smaller. You know, you're wearing a lot more clothing. You're wearing, a corseted dress with all the bustles and whatever underneath. You're wearing the shoes. The shoe style of the day was high heels. It's like, yeah, you're the least practically dressed person. They throw a rope, and he tries to throw a rope from one roof to the other to latch onto something, and trying to catch it on the upper railing of, I guess, walkway on the. And he misses, falls in the street, and then the zombies grab it and they make tug of war, and the kid gets pulled out the window. You know, he's even holding on to the rope. We can't get over the post office. Just let go of the goddamn rope, Cassandra yelled. All right, but before he released it, the gunslinger was yanked through the window. Though the others are nearly pulled through, they managed. God damn it. They managed. You know, pick a tense in the same fucking sentence. Just two writers. I'm getting back to these problems of multiple people in a room in a conversation. The drunken mayor tries to rape Margie, and then the bartender who's been injured, right? He's been bitten. He's going to turn into a zombie. And there's a couple more stuff of people not knowing what's talking. Another illustration. These two guys get in a fight. They go out the front door, actually, and get torn apart by zombies. The mob of corpses fell upon the two men as the mayor screamed. So now you're out the gunslinger, you're out the mayor, you're out the bartender. Reggie, you know, and none of these characters were ever named. Now Dr. Otto has turned. As he reached out, Reggie's hand darted out of the darkness and gripped Mortimer's foot. Mottled hand pulled the mortician's ankle towards gnashing teeth and bit into the soft flesh of the calf, blood bursting around his mouth. Blah, blah, blah. And so now you got another infected, another dead guy. Cassandra does the action girl thing right and kills the Dr. Otto, and then the preacher and Cassandra shove Mortimer towards The zombies. I'm sorry, old friend. May God have mercy on your soul. The two shoved the mortician at the horde and reached and groped for his towards the horde that reached and groped for his flesh. Cassandra, the preacher, turned and ran for the stairs. Mortimer screeched and hollowed, drawing attention away from them. They escape out the other way. This is the illustration that makes the cover. It's really nice. Never actually happens. Does she actually pick up a knife and hack at the zombies or anything? It's like it's annoying that some of the best illustrations in here are stuff that don't actually happen. But the preacher gets bit, so the preacher gets so they make their way to Otto's cart, the moonshine based medicine, patent medicine, and they open up all the bottles and douse the freaking wood of the hand cart to it, and you've got to hit that to get a spark. Do you think you can do it? Cassandra smirked. Don't worry about that. What I want to know is how we're going to get them to follow it. Margie suddenly ran forward, waving her arms. As she reached the madam, several dead citizens ambled out through the saloon door. They're coming! Well, I could have been any three of these so far survivors because it's not attributed. The preacher gripped the cart handle and lifted. He struggled a bit with the weight, but he pushed it forward a few inches. He eased it back down and then turned to smile at Cassandra. I'll make sure they follow me. And that is just a bad illustration, really. I mean, the anatomy is off and stiff. Barely an expression. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be. I'm guessing this is supposed to be the preacher again, but it's not like drawn like in the previous by the other art, by Mike in England. And this is the end of the book. He gathers a crowd around him. She shoots a metal sign, causing a spark to light up the alcohol-based patent medicine, and there's a big fireball explosion that kills the zombies. The bullet skidded off the metal advertisement, and the cart exploded into a ball of fire. Most of the undead were caught in the fireball. Those not obliterated by the explosion flailed through the streets, staggering into each other. Some had been knocked flat by burning debris and scrabbled in the dirt as their rotting bodies smoldered into ash. Really, the one-shot explosion. Like I said, everything is so cliche in this story. It's really bad invocations of these cliches. It's so by the numbers. It's so nothing is brought new to this. I mean, if you've never experienced Weird West before, this is not a great Weird West tale. Then again, I'm finding a lot of the attempts right now at Weird West are not very good. Partly because they seem to all designate it with, zombies will work, right? We just put some zombies and some cowboys together, and then we'll have an instant classic, right? Instant entertainment, and it really doesn't work. You run into the same flaws. Part of it was like every character was an asshole or unnamed, or a named asshole or an unnamed asshole in this story. Nobody actually had an arc. Nobody really changed. They just survived, so they're just action filler. The two girls walk off. All the guys are dead. Girl power, I guess. Mary Sue ending or something. Another great. This is a great illustration, though. This one, it's a really good illustration. A lot of details. There's a missing, bitten off finger and torn off face, and cuts in body. And I just want to say this was a really good drawing, though. Could have used a bit more finishing. I mean, because this would be worth a print in full color. And the anatomy's on point. About the author Peggy Christie. Peggy Christie is an author of horror and dark fiction. Her work has appeared in dozens of websites, magazines, and anthologies, including 13 Little Hells. I actually have a copy of 13 Little Hells, and I was edited by David C. Hayes, a Michigan comics collective. I don't really trust the name collective, horror anthology, and she wrote this story, Bleeder System. And it's actually, so she actually wrote one of the few good stories at only 8 pages in this entire book. Oddly enough, that entire anthology, she really wrote the best one in there. Her shorts, let's see, 13 Little Hells, Necrotic Tissue, and Furotica, an anthology of erotic horror. In 2016, Dragon Roost Press re-released her short story collection, Hell Hath No Fury. That doesn't really say much. I don't know who they are. Peggy is also the secretary of the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers, as well as contributing writer to the website Cinema Head Cheese and Slackjaw Punks. She's a blogger. Peggy loves Korean dramas, survival horror, video games, and chocolate, not necessarily in that order, and lives in Michigan with her husband and her dog and their dog Dozer. About the author David C. Hayes. David C. Hayes is an author, performer, filmmaker. His films, including A Man Called Nereus, Bloody Bible Camp, Dark Places, The Frankenstein Syndrome, Vampmageddon, Machined, Reborn, Backwoods, and approximately 60 more. I'm guessing they're all short films or real shot on shitio, directly released to nowhere, can be seen worldwide. I'm guessing that's because they're on the internet for torrent or on YouTube or something. He's, I think, the problem of why I was finding so many mistakes in tense versus present versus because bits of these are stage direction that are then getting translated to some assistants have tried instead of had tried. All those little boxed words that I was doing where it was the wrong tense, or when the actor was wrong. And this is also why you have these moments of the infected pus being described as green. It's like, that doesn't really happen, but that would be something that you'd put in a movie for cinema's sake to make it look really weird and gross. Marjorie shakes her head. Marjorie shakes her head isn't, or Marjorie even shook her head, is hardly a sentence. You could have used all this extra space to, add emotion in words and stuff. And there's so little descriptive text, and there's so little color to a lot of the text, and it's because this was an this was a failed screenplay. They got turned into this novelette. Who knows? It might actually end up becoming something. They'll shoot it for $1,000, and The Rot has debuted to critical acclaim. As a playwright, David's full-length one-act plays have been produced from coast to coast, and with an off-Broadway the comedy Swamp Ho and selling out performances of Phoenix for Dial P for peanuts. I was a voting member of the Horror Writers Association. Oh, well, I'm guessing I'm never going to get it anywhere in that group. after roasting this thing, this really horrible, this bad. This is not worth $10. If it was a digital release, the story alone, what you wouldn't want to purchase the 40-page or really maybe 20-something page story for 99 cents or something. This is like just an oversight. This is a novelette, like I said. The artwork was interesting, but the actual text drags all that out. About the author, Donald Englund, is Michigan-based artist specializing in horror for over 25 years. He is a product of late-night 80s television. Work has been featured from Voices of the Dead World on Dead World Zombie Soda, which is now Asylum. So, these guys have some real illustrative chops. Maybe they were just both rushed for this. The cover artist for Eerie Tales and Evil Speak magazine. Michael Woolley is a co-creator and artist of Cromwell Green for Melted Wax Publishing. His artwork has been featured in Tattoo Flash and Tattoo Savage magazine. For commission inquiries, contact him at meltedwax2017@gmail.com. I might as well plug him. Hey, Joshua Werner, who only did like one illustration here. Here we see it again, and it's a really good illustration, but for sakes, nothing. Yeah. If you had a story instead where you had an undead skeleton cowboy. Okay, technically, you'd have the YouTube series Screaming Soup, but that would be only if he spent all his time actually just talking about horror movies. But that's actually a ton more interesting than what is in A Fistful of Dead Folk as is. Hey, a weird skeleton with glowing eyes. It'd be so campy. That was so damned. I'd be so damned entertaining. Brian Coates did this piece. Brian Coates won the Ducks Unlimited Art Contest in the 4th grade. He has since collected more college degrees that he can use and has lived in various West Michigan cities. Ouch. That is painful to hear, man. In 2015, he founded Catalyst Comics with his friend and collaborator. Oh, yeah. Josh is also an author, having written 3 books and numerous short stories, as well as an actor, having acted in 6 feature films, a web series, and numerous online short films and skits. A large focus of his career has been in comic book realm. Joshua Frantic on Twitter. As Fall Leaves on Facebook. JoshuaFrantic.tumblr.com. About the illustrator Jason Jimenez. Jason Jimenez is an illustrator from Saginaw, Michigan, who has spent the first few years of his career creating comics like Wild Bullets with the Michigan Comics Collective and Source Point Press. He has also worked with David Hayes on 13 Little Hells, illustrating the story Scavengers. I could do a review, man, of this one, but honestly, there was huge mistakes in there, and I think this was the book that proved to me that comics are a really bad medium for horror, because I didn't feel swept up in that at all. But then again, maybe there's also just a lot like in here. The Great Lakes writers are not very good. Brad Gisha with all this wonky, horrible, oversized hands, legs too short, head too wide on one guy, head too thin on the other. Is a lifelong resident of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. His artwork has been published with PLB Comics, Dim Throat Comics, and with the Michigan Comics Collective, as well as numerous anthologies. His first solo book, The Curiosity Shop, blah, blah. About the illustrator Josh Sobek. Josh Sobek is a writer and artist out of Saginaw, Michigan. He's up in Saginaw. He is an indie press editor and proofreader as well. Josh, this book needed you. They needed the fuck out of a proofreader and editor for this. You gave them an illustration of what they really needed from you, was to correct the many many errors, and maybe actually reject a few passages or send this back for rewrite into a better story. This is a short story that is, it's not like 50 pages of dense text. It's double spaced and a fairly large font. And approver as well, and available for your project. Facebook.com, Josh Sobek. I'm guessing there's not many Josh Sobeks, but if you're press. Town's usually quiet. Well, it's the town of Devil's Gulch. You could have actually said the town of Devil's Gulch is usually quiet. The cowboys work hard and drink hard at the saloon. Madam here treats them real nice. It is her job after all. Although as a madam, she would actually have several girls working under her because the madam is implied to be a procurer, a pimp, or a mech. Sheriff, preacher, mayor, just about got everything every other border town's got in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. Except this town got something else. This town got the dead walking, the dead killing, the dead eating. Lots of them, hordes of them. Hell, this town's got a fistful of them, and they ain't going nowhere. And, god damn it, the sheriff. Well, the sheriff was a pointless character. Barely anybody had an arc. This is it was a really dismal read. It's not worth putting an ISBN number on. Like I said, I picked up the copy over at both Peggy and I got them signed by the two people because both Peggy and Mike were there, and it was Mike, and I've known him from back in the day, so I said, okay, hey, this is your latest project. I'll give you $10 for this, and it's not worth it. That's what I'm afraid to say. This was bad. This wasn't the worst thing, but there was a lot of flaw. There were so many flaws in the writing, and it was so uninspired. And I can see why, knowing that one of them, at least one of the writers, centers on writing movies, just churning out movies, because this literally has the action beats of a really schlock budget horror movie, and one of those unimaginative ones where you figure people will watch this, people would rent this, or sit at a film festival and watch the movie of A Fistful of Dead Folk just to see some cheesy footage of somebody's guts getting ripped out or whatever. But reading it has such lackluster descriptions or lackluster writing styles as is presented in this, make it a failure. No success. But that's all I can say for it. As usual, I'm Ben Rodriguez, aka Bar One Scorpio. Bar One Studios, BAR, the number one, Scorpio, SCORPIO. You can find me Bar One Scorpio on DeviantArt, on Face for Affinity, on Twitter, and of course Patreon if you'd like to drop something in the till. This kind of thing don't get monetized.